you all for your testimony. You were just speaking to Senator Bennett about Russia and some of the influence that they have targeted and the ways that they're doing it. Can we switch sides and actually talk about China? What is China doing currently to try to influence United States public opinion?
Yeah, if it's all right with you, sir, I'll mention what they're doing here, but also what they're doing abroad, because we're seeing it on a broad range of things. I think they're growing, we assess, really increasingly confident in their ability to influence elections, but remain concerned about the possibility of blowback should they be discovered. And the PRC has made improvements to its influence operation tools using artificial intelligence, big data analytics. Their tactics globally include bankrolling candidates they prefer, using deepfake technologies to generate content, collecting polling data to determine targets for them, conducting social media influence operations. For example, the PLA will take over and operate social media accounts on a number of different platforms. We look to disclose that and tell companies about that when it happens to promote disinformation across the board. And they also target their diasporas, and we've seen them obviously seek to influence elections not only in the United States in the context of congressional candidates. Generally, this has been one of the things in different levels and spaces, but also elections in Taiwan, in Australia, and in Canada, so a pretty significant portion.
How do we expose that? How do we put the word attributions, the challengers we've already talked about already? Once it starts to get out there on social media and other places, how is that exposed most effectively if it's discovered on the federal side?
Start, but I think my colleagues may wish to amplify certain aspects of this. I mean, we obviously put in our annual threat assessment some of the things that we're seeing the PRC engage in terms of influence operations, including in these spaces. And when we get intelligence that indicates that the PRC is, for example, taking on social media accounts or things like that in a platform, we then pass that information through. The FBI is able to provide that to the companies to take action if they...
A general statement, if they're going to do it, is different than a example to say, here's an example of a post that we know was created by or was amplified by China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, whatever it may be. 2016 and 2017, we're able to pull exact examples and to be able to list them, post them, and say, this was Russian created. Here's where it started, here's where it came from, and to be able to expose it. How do we do that now as we're approaching this election and foreign actors are trying to influence?
We will do just that. So essentially the same playbook in that sense that we are identifying specific credible intelligence, we are passing that to the companies or exposing it publicly as the case may determine.
Okay, let me keep going because I'll be limited in time, though I have mercifully 7 minutes to be able to walk through this, but I'll still run out of time on this. Since we passed the Help America's Vote Act, HAVA, as it's all called at this point, there's been perpetual funding that's been sent out to multiple states to be able to improve their systems. It's been interesting. I pulled new numbers because every state says we can't improve our election systems. We don't have enough money on it. So we pulled the recent spending and what people have and what they haven't spent already. Colorado, my colleague Senator Bennett just left, has received $15 million, has only spent 27% of that money. Hawaii has received $8 million, has spent 26% of it. Louisiana has received $14.5 million and has spent zero of that so far. Maryland, $17 million, has spent 37%. Minnesota, $16 million, has spent 41%. Not to leave my own state out, Oklahoma has received $11 million. We've spent 23% of that. Now, other states have spent more on it, but this money has been sitting there for years. This is not money that was allocated to them 3 months ago. Quite a bit of this funding was allocated to them years ago, and they have not actually spent it. So my question is, Ms. Easterly, on this, how do we encourage states to be able to up their game on a couple of areas? One is learning the lesson of the unofficial results in their own websites and how to be able to protect those systems. That's an obvious area of creating distrust on election night if those are actually interfered with. The second one is old school paper ballot backups. So if there's a problem with the machine, everybody can verify it with a piece of paper. When we have states that have literally millions of dollars sitting there saying we don't have enough to be able to do this, when most of them do, how do we advance this?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Senator. So I can't speak to those statistics, and I'm happy to follow up on that. But I will say what we provide as the Sector Risk Management Agency are no-cost services and no-cost training. So many of the states, in fact, thousands of jurisdictions take advantage of the cybersecurity assessments, the free cyber hygiene scanning we provide, the endpoint detection and response that we have, the malicious domain blocking. So all of that is in place across the country. So I know they're taking advantage of that, and that has significantly raised the bar from a cybersecurity perspective. I think your points about election night reporting are very good ones. One of the things that I think it's really important for everyone to remember is that those are all unofficial results, right? And they need to be canvassed, and they need to be certified, which takes days to weeks.
Right, but if it's announced on election night who won, and then a week later the state announces, oops, no, a different person won, that sows incredible distrust.
I agree.
Where now no one trusts the election results anymore. And while the election results were unofficial, if those are interfered with, that's a real vulnerability to building trust among the American people.
I agree with that, sir. As I said in my opening statement, these systems are more secure than ever before. And election officials, to include Paul Zirex, who's your state election director, are terrific, are working incredibly hard to make sure that every one of their citizens' votes are counted as cast. And I think it's really important that we focus on them because they're the true election experts, and we listen to their voices and what they say. And so I would hope that anybody who is providing unofficial results would make sure that that state election director gets a voice in that to say it's not canvassed, it's not certified yet, so let's wait until it's certified.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to ask a follow-up question on this and then have it done. Ms. Knapp, as far as the FBI and U.S. Attorney's offices following up on a criminal offense of voting, if you're not legally present in the country and you're voting in a federal election, that is a federal crime. What I'd love to be able to know, and I've not been able to get the statistic on, is how many prosecutions do we have across the country for a federal election crime? Is that actually being followed up on? Do we have a good number of both charges being filed and actual prosecutions on that for a federal election crime? I know in my state, we talked about Paul Zirex in my state and what our district attorneys are doing in the state. If someone votes twice or whatever it may be, the prosecution's there and they have a good history on that. I don't know on the federal side. Can y'all provide that to me?
Sir, thank you very much for the question. What I do have in front of me right now is how many cases have been charged through the Department of Justice Task Force on Election Security. What I don't have is that second part, but I can at least give you a general number right now. So right now the task force has charged 17 cases with a resulting 13 convictions, but with respect to your subset question, I'm happy to take that back to my team and get you a more complete answer.
Great, thank you.
I think those HAVA numbers are pretty remarkable. I'm glad you shared those.
Some states have spent 70, 80% of them. Quite a few of our states have spent 50% or less on the HAVA numbers, and these are the most recent from just a couple of months ago.
That's a very fair question.